Hi, this is Sharon Vornholt with Innovative Property Solutions and the Louisville Gals Real Estate Blog, and I am really excited today to have with me a superstar in the real estate business, Mitch Stephen. Mitch has been self-employed since 1996. He is from San Antonio, Texas, and has purchased over 1,000 houses. He's also the author of a book, which I love, by the way. I have the book, My Life in 1,000 Houses, Falling Forward to Financial Freedom. If that weren't enough, Mitch is also an award-winning songwriter, trainer, educator, and he speaks frequently to groups all around the country about his experiences. So I'm real happy to have him here today. Welcome, Mitch.
Good morning, Sharon. It's the day of technology, isn't it great?
It is great. As you know, this is my brand new series, Escaping the 9 to 5, how I did it. So I'm going to be asking folks how they did it, how they went from zero to, in your case, phenomenal success. So I want to take you back to when you had a job, which we all call just over broke. But I want to talk a little bit about your job. So if you tell us about that.
Well, I actually had more jobs than I could count. I always had the bartending job, and then I had the business of the month, which was whatever business I was trying to get off the ground at the time so I could get ahead. And I was always trying to find my own business, and I did everything from window tinting to painting parking lots. I painted a lot of stripes on parking lots. So I always had two jobs. The last job I did, though, I was getting pretty serious, and I went on the road for 90 days at a time. I visited every mall in the United States. I was wiring their computer registers, and I vowed that I would not come off the road until I figured out how I was going to go home and not have to have a job.
Now, I seem to remember, weren't you even living out of your car part of the time? Was that with that job?
Well, I was never homeless in the sense of the word that I was on a street, but I lived in a van in a hotel for 5 years of my life, and reading and studying and listening to CDs and tapes and things. So, and I did sleep in that van on some occasions because I had to, but it wasn't because I was destitute, so don't get that picture. But
Right, you're right. I just remember you were working so hard that was part of it. You were just about killing yourself in that job.
Yeah, and by the time I got off the road in 5 years, I won't claim to know post-traumatic stress syndrome like some of our great soldiers in the United States, but I do know that when I got back, I was just flat. I was not high or low. I had learned to live by myself, and I just learned to be flat. You know, there was no spikes. It took me about a year and a half to get myself back.
So during that time, you were studying real estate. Had you already decided that was your path?
No, I was studying just about anything I could get my hands on, although I kept going back to real estate because I had done a few deals in my life. I owned a condo that I lived in, and then I sold. I rented the condo out, and I got a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo and got a roommate, and life was pretty good because I was living for free when I collected the rent on all of them. And so, I had some experiences with rent houses, but what really dawned on me was that I had made more money when I sold those places. I made more money than I did at my full-time job. And so it was always in the back of my mind. But I was reading things like Og Mandino's, what is it, richest salesman the best salesman in the world. I read McCormick's book, Self-Made in America, which was teaching people why immigrants could come to this country without even the language and be financially independent within 5 to 10 years. And then we lived right in the middle of the United States at the corner of opportunity and success, and we could stay here a lifetime and never figure it out. And that really, really impressed me. What it said to me was I wasn't prepared to sacrifice at the level that it was going to take, and it showed what those people did to become successful, and I wasn't even coming close to giving up. We're right here. We're right here with so much stuff to buy and have and own that locks us up in a kind of a debtor's prison that we never get out of it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to look at it from someone else's perspective, isn't it?
Right. I started to imagine and live like I was an immigrant, which did two things. One, it made me, grateful for where I was, because all immigrants have, in this book, they were grateful to come to a place where they even had the chance to prosper and they didn't have a gun to their head and weren't enslaved by regulation and laws and communism and socialism. And the other thing it did for me was it showed me that I needed to sacrifice some more if I wanted to have what I wanted to have. And what I wanted to have was financial freedom. I mean, I wanted to wake up in the morning and say what I wanted to do.
Exactly. So you no doubt had a lot of challenges until you reached that, though. Tell us some of the things that you faced personally.
Well, I was so broke that I lost my first relationship, which, for probably the first time in my life, broke my heart. I was on the road with a broken heart, and it sounds foolish to say now, and I laugh because I've been married happily now for 22 years, but it was the first time ever that I had a broken heart. I lost my brother, who was 2 years younger than me, and I just really, I had enjoyed a very successful, what would you say, high school career, and life was just kicking the dog doo-doo out of me. I mean, it was just wearing me out. So, and I'm a high school graduate, so there wasn't a lot of, people weren't knocking down my doors to give me a job. I was making an $8 hour, $10 hour, $12 hour job. A lot of it not getting paid that well and working really hard. And I just decided one day I wasn't going to do it. As a matter of fact, my first goal that I ever remember writing down was no job and eat. And I didn't have any kids. I didn't have a family. It was just me, and it still scared me to death.
Yeah. That's a powerful thing. Money is a powerful motivator, but sometimes I think what really sets those who really make it is the fact that they absolutely have something else there. And you were able to see the big picture back even then. And you knew what so many people don't ever figure out is that there is great sacrifice involved in the beginning. You plan for success, but the fact of the matter is you got to get down in the trenches and get dirty and do the work in the beginning.
Well, the real trick of it is, the way that I see it is, the real trick of it is, I wrote in my book, My Life 1,000 Houses, you've got to get on the other side of the clock. You've got to get to where when the first of the month comes, it's, wow, is it the first of the month already? A lot of people owe me a lot of money. Enough to pay my bills and enough even more. But all of us are used to living on the side of the clock that says, it's the first of the month. Dang. I owe my bills again. And as if that doesn't come around fast enough, the first of the month seems to come around faster now that I'm on the other side of the clock. It's like I just look up and I'm getting paid again. I'm getting paid all the time. I've even set it up where I get paid on the 15th and the 1st because I like getting paid on the 1st so much that when I had enough on the 1st, I started getting pay me on the 15th so I could get a payday on the 15th and the 1st. So like every 15 days, I'm getting a check that's more than enough to pay my bills.
Yeah, I know that was one of your goals, wasn't it, to have all of your monthly expenses paid from your income, passive income?
Yes, and I don't know if we talked about this before. We had a interview about my book one time. It was quite a while back, but it's worth repeating because what you're talking about is people who want to leave their jobs are contemplating, how do I get out of my job? And one of the things that let me know that there was a day that I knew for sure I was going to get out of my job. I hadn't made any real headway in the financial department, but I knew for sure I was going to get out of my job when I read someone's definition of financial freedom. And the definition said, financial freedom happens when your wants and your needs are exceeded by your passive income. Now, I guess sometimes, the teacher will appear when the student's ready kind of thing. I was ready to hear that sentence. And when I heard that sentence, it wasn't just a sentence that said financial freedom happens when your wants and your needs are exceeded by your passive income. That's just a little dumb sentence. But when I heard it, it hit me like like I had seen the path to the Holy Grail. And let me tell you why. Because I had always thought that financial freedom was a word for if you were rich.
Rich. Had a lot of money in the bank.
True. Yeah, financial freedom has nothing to do with how much, where you rank in the world as far as money in the bank. It has nothing to do with that. What it says is, if I had this is the second thing it said, I could control the bar of when I'm going to be financially free. If I had a lifestyle that was $3,000 a month, that's one thing to accomplish. But if I had to have $10,000 a month, that's a whole different thing to accomplish. And it also said I could regulate that bar. Maybe right now I needed $6,000 a month to be financially free, but I had things I could cull that I didn't need. And in the name of freedom, I would shun those things and get down to where I could live off. And my number was $3,500 a month at the time. And then suddenly, one of the other things it did for me, it allowed me to quit thinking in terms of millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars. All I had to do was focus on one thing. What did I need to do to bring in $3,500 a month? $3,501 a month would make me free. And so it wasn't about this big thing.
That's an important concept. Yeah, people need to get that. Don't think about the millions. Think about your freedom day, in other words. And that was your freedom day, $3,500 a month, where you could have at that point chosen whether or not to get up and go to work.
Yes, and here's the big picture of it all is I was already pretty much trimmed down. There wasn't a lot of fat for me to trim, but I was over $3,500 in my expenses, and I got it down. But here's why it was so important for me to do this. I figured that the day that I became financially free, if being wealthy was in the cards for me, that that would start my next journey, and I would start to see if Mitch Stephen could be wealthy or exceed some of his financial dreams. Not just make enough to pay the bills and take my wife to a movie every now and then. I'm talking about what was the next step. The next step was, who could I become if I worked in the area of my passion 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? That's when you get wealthy. But the first step is to get free. The way I see it.
That's a terrific point for people to get. So you did houses. You bought houses, as we know. You bought over 1,000 houses, and that gave you a lot of flexibility to do different things. But along the way, your business has evolved into different things, different passive income streams. So tell us kind of where your business was with your rehabbing and all of that, and then how you transitioned into more passive streams of income.
Well, let's go back. I think there's, people want to quit their jobs, but I think it's almost, for a lot of people, unless they have the ability to bank a lot of money, like a year or two's worth of salary, it's a lot of pressure to just jump from your job and have to do a business to make money. Now, sometimes that pressure is good, and sometimes that pressure is not good, because you're basically putting it all on the line. If you have house payments and kids and family, it's got to really be hard. So, and I wasn't really one to take that big a risk myself. So I started, when I was on that road, I started going home during my days off, which I'd have like 7 to 10 days off every 90 days. And I'd save up my money, and I'd go out and try to buy a house. And I did it part-time. I bought houses part-time until I got up to 25 houses. Okay. The problem was I was renting houses. And what I was supposed to make on the bottom line as a landlord wasn't hitting my bank account. The model looked great on paper. But the repairs and the move-outs and the destruction and the lying and the cheating and everything, it was robbing me. And by then I had quit my job because I thought I was supposed to be making $7,500 a month. I thought 25 houses making $300 a month, that's $7,500. I thought I was supposed to make that. And what happened is I quit my job. I quit my job only to find out by the end of 1 year that I was not only broke, I was upside down. It wasn't coming in. And so I got very depressed again because it was going to be like another job that didn't work out. And then I did, by by sheer luck, which is something I do now all the time when I get stuck in a rut or a box, I did something naturally that now I know to do when I get there, for sure, as a rule, is I went and got around people that were in my business, started talking about what am I doing wrong, and talked to people that had more than me, made more than me, and who I wanted to be. And I talked to them. And right, like the first time I told this guy, he owns like 200 houses. I told him, I said, what do I do? I explained my situation. I had these rent houses. And it's like someone had asked him the question before I got there. I mean, the answer just came right off his tongue like, are you just an idiot, Mitch? You know? He said, well, just owner finance them. Collect $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000 down a house, and then collect $7,500 in payments, and then you won't be giving it all away. And I just scratched my head. And I said, that's it? And he said, yeah, that's it. That'll solve your whole problem. And then he went on to have a glass of tea somewhere, you know?
Isn't it just amazing that the people show up when you need them if you just look for them?
And I was asking. You know, I told him, I said, you know, I have these rent houses. I'm supposed to be making this money. I'm not making this money. I want out of the business. I've been trying to sell my houses. I actually want it out at this point. And see, I could have quit this business and never come back again, because it would have been another failed business that I had. But this guy said, and it was kind of fate. I couldn't get out because the people in the neighborhoods that I was buying houses in, the kind of neighborhoods I was buying houses in, which was the middle, probably lower. You know, if you're talking about middle class, there's probably somewhere between the bottom and the middle class. And they couldn't get loans to buy these houses. And I couldn't sell them to anybody. At least I wasn't smart enough to sell them to anybody. And so that was kind of a stroke of luck because I couldn't get out. I had to find a different solution. Well, within like 4 months or 90 days, it was a very short period of time, I had collected $3,000 from 25 used to be renters.
Wow. And
so do the math. 3,000 times 25 people on average. I mean, 3,000 on average times 25. I had $75,000 in the bank.
Which changed everything. Yeah.
Well, I woke up and I said, now this is a business. Also, the $7,500 a month that I was supposed to get as a landlord, I was getting that as the bank. And here's the greatest thing about the difference between rent, and, you know, you got rent on one hand and you got collecting payments on the other hand. When you got rent, you don't know if the money's yours. Because if the air conditioner breaks, you got to give it to the air conditioner man.
Exactly.
Okay? When you collect payments, the money's yours.
Yes.
If the air conditioner breaks, it's not your air conditioner. And that whole dynamic led me to buy 1,000 houses. Because I'll tell you what happened after that. Then the note buyer started calling me because I saw my name down at the courthouse as the individual who was carrying the note. And they started calling me, and they wanted to know how much I'd take for that $35,000 note I had. I had, like, they still owed me. I was selling houses for $38,000 with $3,000 down, $42,000 with $3,000 down. On average, I was owed like $35,000 for 20, 25 years at 10%. At 10%.
10%. Okay.
And I only had like $17,000 in these houses. That's what I had borrowed to buy the houses. So I was due the equity between $35,000 and $17,000. What is that? $18,000.
Yes.
Well, they told me they'd give me $15,000 cash today. And I said, they were calling me on one house. I said, well, can you do it 25 times? And they said, yes. All of a sudden I had $15,000 times 25 plus the $75,000 that I got from the down payments. I had it in the bank.
Wow.
I had turned into like, in a matter of like 8 months, I went from wanting to get out of this business to like having more money than I'd ever seen in my life.
So you got to be a master of money. That's really money, and how to use it was kind of your passive income stream then.
Well, Sharon, here's the thing. It's not really about the money. It's about the freedom. Unfortunately, we're going to have to buy our freedom, and it's going to take money. You know, I mean, if it's about jelly beans, we'd all be out collecting jelly beans because money's just money. But let me tell you another thing about money. What I learned was when I had my moat paid for, which in the book I describe my financial freedom as my castle with my chickens and my horses and, you know, my family and the AC and the insurance. And then I put a moat around it and filled it full of alligators. That was my little sanctuary. And I was trying to get that paid for. And as we discussed, I needed about $3,500 to get that done. Well, after you gain the $3,500 and you're free, then all the excess money you make, it's kind of like research and development money. It's just money now.
Yes.
When you go out and you lose on a deal and you needed that to make your house payment, that's not just money.
Right.
That's a big problem. And that's a lot of pressure. But so what happens is I could drop that drawbridge and I could charge out when I had some extra money. And if I got my buns just kicked all over the planet, I could come back, pull up the drawbridge, and everything was paid for inside that moat, and I could breathe, and I could retool, and I could try to figure out what I did wrong. And that's ultimately how I came to buy 1,000 houses. I didn't have a goal to buy 1,000 houses. Matter of fact, I had no idea for years that I had bought 1,000 houses. I sent someone to go to file out of a storage, and I couldn't, they couldn't go get it. And then I called someone else to go get it, and they couldn't go get it, so I had to go get it myself. And when I opened up the storage door, I had 8 years of files looking me in the face, and they were stacked up to the roof on all sides of me. And I thought, how many houses is this? And then I sent someone the next day to count my files.
I was going to say, you sent someone, though. You didn't do it. You sent someone because you were able to do that.
I got my file that I needed, and I went back to do my business. But then I kept wondering, how many houses have I done? I have no idea. And so then I said, I called someone. I said, I want you to go down to that storage and I want you to count every single file. And diligently. I don't want you to guess. I want you to count every single one. And they came back and said, you have, I don't remember numbers. It was over 1,000. And I thought, well, who would have guessed? Who would have even thought?
Who would have guessed? So being an entrepreneur has made you have a lifestyle that people can only dream of. Tell me a little bit about the lifestyle change that's come about from the freedom you've gotten from the path that you ultimately landed on.
Well, I'll tell you some things that I don't think a lot of people want to hear, but it's true. I still remain frugal. Have you ever read the book, The Millionaire Next Door?
I have.
Everything, I try to contain myself all the time. Cause I could foolishly go out and I could do a whole bunch of things. I could buy, I could buy myself right out of this financial freedom, which who would want to do that, No. I keep it real. I got a budget. I know, to tell you the truth though, I want everyone to just think about this. In The Millionaire Next Door, he talks about a lot of statistics. One of the most fascinating things I learned was where I was in the world if I just made $200,000 a year. I mean, if you make $200,000 a year, you're like in the top 1% of the world.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of things, when you start to make money, you got to learn a little bit about money, and money can cause more problems than it can solve. Believe it or not, it can really cause more problems than it can solve if you don't have your head screwed on straight. And so one of the things that I grasped really quickly after reading that book, Millionaire Next Door, was after you make $250,000 a year, if you still got problems, it isn't the money.
Right.
It's not the money.
It's you.
And quite could be possible that the money's causing you problems because you're not equipped to handle them. Just like, have you seen the nightmares that happen to lottery winners?
Yes.
It's almost horrific because if you get it, I was also blessed that I had to struggle for my money. I wouldn't change my struggle for anything because it prepared me to have money. The struggle to get it prepared me to have it. And if you think that you just wish someone to give you $1 million, it might be really glorious for a little run, like 6, 7, 8 months. But if you didn't have what it took to make the money, you'll lose that money. Most likely, statistics say.
Yeah, very
and then
quickly.
The fall is devastating. It wipes out families. It causes suicide. The fall from those numbers in the lottery is so drastic that people cease to have joy in life. Well, and it's not about that.
Yeah, you're right. I think people that, the people that ultimately succeed are able to look at the big picture. They're able to look way down the road, do what you said, continue to work and build, but to be frugal and just not twitter it all away on whatever it is. I know some investors, it's given them the freedom to go into different types of businesses and work from the beach. If the beach was their passion, they can work from the beach in their laptop. So you definitely have choices if you do that. But you have come from the very beginnings of just starting out to being hugely successful. So you've told me there's not really anything you would change about your struggle. But what advice would you...
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things I would do to have shortcutted my path. I mean, to have shortened it, which I didn't even know to think. But one is, you gotta have a mentor. You gotta have a course, or you gotta, don't try to do it on your own. I did it myself, and I made tons and tons and tons of mistakes because I wasn't listening to anyone else. I thought I had it figured out. And of course I wouldn't, and then I'd have to go back, and then I'd try it a different way, and that wouldn't work, and I'd have to go back. And, I think one of the greatest things you can do, and there's so much free resource on the internet now. You can scan the internet. You can get almost anything you want. You can get all the information on any topic from subject to, how to run a printing press. I don't know. You can get anything. I would say scan that internet, find out what you're really passionate about. Learn as much as you can about it for free. And when you know in your heart that this is the niche of the niche that I'm going to do, because like real estate has so many niches, you could get lost out there in an ocean of things to do. Find out what you really want to do, what you really think turns you on. And then at that point, go either spend money with a mentor or hone in on that course for X amount of dollars. And some of them are very expensive. Some of them aren't. But any of them should pay you back if you learn to do what they say to do. And it'll shortcut you a million miles. It'll shortcut. I would have been well served to have found some kind of mentor, even if I had to pay them.
Yes. Having a mentor is crucial, and I think most people do what you did, and I did. When you get stuck, you go find some advice. But my advice to anyone now is to find a mentor. If you can't afford one, there are people that will be willing to let you work for them, to do things for them in exchange for learning. You can do that. I like mastermind groups. You're probably part of a mastermind group or have been. They are great because you get people in there, even though you might all be in real estate. As you said, there's a ton of niches, and you can just learn so much from people that maybe think a little bit differently than you. But the absolute final end all is that you're going to have to spend some money. Along the way, you're going to have to get some top-notch courses, which can be challenging in itself to sift through. You're going to have to probably pay for some mentoring or coaching. But the sooner you are able to do that, the sooner you will be able to just take huge leaps and, quite frankly, avoid a whole lot of the pain that you and I felt along the way.
Yeah, I don't have a college degree, and I'm certainly not talking down a college degree, but let's just look at how much money people spend on college and what they're promised and what they get when they walk out that door on year 4 or 5. So to pay $2 or $3 or $5 or $8 or $10,000 compared to the hundreds of thousands of dollars that people pay for a college degree that really offers no specific, for the most part, no specific genre that you're going to go into.
Right.
And the other thing to do, most of this audience is probably real estate related, I would guess. Is that right, Sharon?
I would say they're real estate related, although most people are branching out. They're either doing some form of internet marketing or course development. They're all learning that flipping houses is great. But at some point in time, you don't want to necessarily be doing that every day. You want something more passive like you're doing, maybe like being a lender or developing courses. So I think they're all at different levels, but they're all in real estate and all have their hands in something going a little bit different direction.
Okay, so here's what I wanted to say. It's mostly real estate related people that understand real estate.
Right.
Is that the best way to start out in the business is just to be a wholesaler. Learn how to put a deal together, learn how to paper it up, Learn how to buy yourself a little bit of time before the closing, and then sell a couple of those and just mark them up $2,000-3,000. Do that 3 times, you got $9,000 in the bank. The trick is don't live off the money to put that money away so you can write that check for that education to go to another level if you want.
Right.
Or save half of it at least. I mean, you may have to have a full-time job, and then after hours and on the weekends, go find 1 deal or 2 deals a month. I got my bird dogs this month. I bought 27 houses this month.
Mm-hmm. Boy.
I mean, I'm sorry. In fact, it was the month of February.
It's a lot.
And the bird dogs, I have 2 bird dogs out finding me houses. They both made $8,000 a piece. And they have a job. One of them has a job, one of them doesn't. Mm-hmm. And they're able to make that kind of money in their spare time. They didn't start off on the first day doing it. They have about 90 days worth of studying and kind of internship to get up to speed, to even have enough guts to go out and say, I think I found a deal. Mm-hmm. It took them a little while of just kicking tires, running up and talking to people and realtors and looking at houses and kind of getting to know the lay of the land of where we live and what a deal is and what a deal isn't. And what I was looking for specifically, because I trained them up on like what I'm looking for. Exactly. I gave them the resources to be able to check out what rents are in the neighborhood. Like in 30 seconds, we can find out what rent's going for in the neighborhood within $10. I gave them some resources. I told them what I was looking for. And what I'm looking for is I want to buy a house. If I buy a house for 50, I want to be able to create a note for 100. I want to double what my basis is. Okay. If I'm into my house for 50, I want to sell it for 110 with some kind of down payment, and I want to have a note for 100 or better. Okay. 10.5% for 20 years. Okay. Yeah, that's the baseline. That's the bar. Sometimes I'm a little over that bar, and sometimes I'm a little under that bar, but it's all good enough. And so that's what I do.
That's a great plan. So your advice, your final advice to people is don't quit your job right away. Keep your job, bank some money, learn to wholesale, learn to bird dog, kind of get your feet wet before you dive in and just one day walk in and quit your job.
Well, unless you have a lot of resources and you're willing to take a sabbatical for a year and burn through your savings, which that can happen. What happened to me was I bought and sold a couple of houses, made notes and sold the notes. I looked up after 2 or 3 deals. I was fortunate that I didn't make very much money a month. I made about $28,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So it was very easy. When I did 2 deals and I made $15,000 a deal that I described earlier. Mm-hmm. And I had $30,000 in the bank. I had a year's worth of salary in the bank. And I said, I'm going to see what I could do 24/7. And the job I had wasn't special. I could get another one just like it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, I got enough in the bank. I didn't go buy a boat. I didn't go buy a car. I stayed right where I was. And I left that money in the bank, and I said, I'm going to pay myself just like I get paid at my job. And I knew exactly what I got on the 1st and the 15th, and that's what I took out on the 1st and the 15th. I did 45 houses my first year. Wow. Yeah, from the day I got free. I quit. I remember it was March of 1996. I quit my job. I've never been employed since. And the next year I did 65 houses, and the next year I did 150, which I don't wish on anybody. And then I started cutting back in having a life and having a career. For the first 3 years, I was so scared that it was going to disappear on me that I was just like trying to hoard every house I could get because I thought, this is going to go away. And I didn't have a life. Today I have a life. So well, I collect payments. I collect payments now on 140 houses. Wow. And get this. I've learned to sell notes without discounts.
Very cool. Very cool.
Last month I sold 4 notes with no discounts. On an average, I make about $20,000 to $25,000 a house.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Mitch, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that because that is something that is a strategy that I don't think a lot of people really have a clue about. So we'll just put that down and say we're going to do it. And I wanted to direct people to your website, 1000houses.org. I know on there you've got folks can get the first 100 pages of your book there. They can also get it on your Facebook page. And tell everyone what that page is.
You can find my fan page at mitchonfacebook.com. mitchonfacebook.com. And this is my book right here. It's called My Life in 1,000 Houses. How's that for unashamed plug?
No, and I plug your book all the time. I tell everyone they need to read that book because it's just the thing I love about your book is it chronicles your journey, and it's little short chapters. I'm an avid reader, so I could pick up the book and I flew right through it. But I know some folks have a little bit more trouble with reading in snatches, and your book is perfect. And it's something that every new or seasoned real estate investor should read. And I'm going to put all of these resources on the site in the post so people don't feel like they have to, like maybe they've missed them. And I want to thank you so much for coming on here today and telling your story. You have a great story, Mitch.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm happy to share it with anyone that comes by. I actually wrote the book, and it's probably not what people think. It's just, like you said, it's the first half is chronological of how I went from zero to having some success. Mm-hmm. And then the last half of the book is 18 stories that you just can't make up. I mean, they happened to me in real time, and I couldn't have made them up to save my life. And some of them are sad, and some of them are funny, and some of them I made money, and some of them I lost some money. But they're all, like you said, pretty short. And people are surprised because they think it's going to be some kind of how-to book. And while you could learn a lot about real estate from reading it, it's really not a how-to book, is it, Sharon? It's more of just the day in the life of an investor, but it takes you through 10 years.
It does, and it's a great book. Well, Mitch, thanks again. And as I said, I'll be putting this up on my blog, and I'll have links and list all of the resources that we've talked about today. So happy investing, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Sharon. It was my pleasure. Have a great day.
Mm-hmm.